The story is, when I was a kid, local lad, so you start off going to the local pubs first of all, and then when you get in with your mates, older brothers, and you start being brave enough to go to the nightclubs and wanting to do all that. It was the scene. We were all into our soul, jazz, funk. Can't even tell you how important the music was to us. It just meant something, you know. And I remember vividly being in the club and seeing this flyer. It just had that look. It was all about the artwork for me. It still is all about the artwork. And I didn't find out till years later the guy who designed this for a club is now no longer in existence, the Kirk Levington Country Club, but there used to be a DJ night on there, or a soul night. The guys would put on all the stuff that I love. Unfortunately, I never got there. It was one of my biggest regrets of all time, not getting to the Kirk. But we get lots of customers in that talk about it. I've just had a record collection in that I bought a couple of weeks back. Loads of 12-inch singles, loads of albums from a guy that used to DJ there. I couldn't wait to ask him about, you know, the nights that they had, the jazz, funk, soul nights. This is almost kind of like an imaginary place to me because I never went. So I've only got this picture of what kind of went on there and what the scene would have been like and what the atmosphere would have been like just through this flyer. But I've collected these flyers ever since, and I collected the flyers from kind of all the nightclubs in the Teesside area that I used to go to when I was kind of 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever it was we were. And I've still got them. I'm still passionate about saving them. It means the world to me that I've still got it. The first thing I ever picked up. And I think that inspired this what we have here, the Roxy Music and Poster Store. That's the thing I keep coming back to, and whenever someone comes in the shop and they mention that they've either got a love for jazz, funk, soul music, or that some of their days were spent at the Kirk, it's always this. I go to show them, I say, did you ever kind of like, you know, go to one of these nights? Or so it's a good talking point. And again, I think the shop's really important for having talking points. We have some boom boxes in here, which again I've collected, and all the kind of electro funk, which kind of came out the soul music scene, the early 80s, electro funk, early hip hop, stuff like that. All that stuff I kind of loved. We went through and those scenes, and we've got some boom boxes in here that people love to look at, talk about. They had one when they were kids, you know, that all those kind of memories come back. I was still in the loft, all that kind of thing. I should get it down now and play me cassettes. We do cassettes. We do 12-inch singles and really treasure them, which a lot of places don't. It feels like something that I would want to come to, that kind of shop. The first wage that I ever got, which is nothing to do with music, or, you know, I was working in one of those boring jobs that we all have when we kind of start our journey. The first wage packet I got, I remember going and buying a Technics stack hi-fi. I still got it to this day. I still use it to this day. That was the first wage packet, and then from then on I remember the local record shops that we had, the likes of Fernley's in Middlesbrough, Austin's in Middlesbrough. There was one at Darlington that escapes me. I was going in there with my wages and spending money on import records. Again, jazz, funk, soul stuff that was coming. It was buying the Blues and Soul magazine from Fernley's, picking that up every fortnight, flicking through it, find out what he had in the racks, going home, reading about the kind of soul music that was coming out at the time, going back the following week, picking that up, spending a fortune, absolute fortune. And you think back and you think, God, if your parents knew how much you were spending on stuff, they'd be like horrified, you know what I mean? I even give up drink quite early on in my life, so I could go and buy records. You know, the drink wasn't that important to me. A few beers on a Friday night, that wasn't like anything for me. I'd rather save the money and go and spend it on records on a Saturday, and then come back and just have that joy of having these records for the week, you know. By the time you got to Friday and you were building up to the weekend, again, you were playing these records. That became you going out on Friday night records and your weekend. The collection I had, again, so many people come into the shop telling me that they had a collection when they were young and then they sold it, and then they've got to this certain age again where they're trying to recollect what they give away once. I was in exactly that same position. Why we do it, I do not know, but it happens at a certain point in your life, whether it's whether you start a family, whether other priorities come into your life. There was a point in our kind of journey where CDs took over from vinyl. CDs were kind of really important at one point, and I look back and they still are to some people, but they were really important to us all at one point. A lot of people were kind of like thinking it's time to ditch the vinyl. The CDs now are taking over. They were great, but then they kind of had their time, and vinyl slowly started to come back, whether that was the advent of Record Store Day being a catalyst for that. Maybe it was just more record shops were surviving, and we had a brilliant one in Stockton, Sound It Out, that was just a real hub for the community. I was in near Kendal the other day, and there was a guy talking to me about Sound It Out in Stockton. So the ripples that had across even the north, let alone the kind of the northeast or our area, Teesside, just goes on and on and on. A fascinating place, an amazing guy, Tom, that ran it. And again, it's little things like that. You see, you go into record shops and you think, I'd love to do this, and maybe a small few of us do it. Again, it's like they say, isn't it? If you do something that's your passion, you never really work a day in your life, and that really is how I feel. I just think we've created something that I love coming to every single day. I love meeting the people that come in. I love seeing new people come in the door and do that. Where they look around, they stand in the middle of the shop and they can't quite take it in because there's so much going on. I'm looking at them from behind the counter because they can't really see me from where I am. But that sense of wonder is just makes it all worthwhile. I remember my daughter coming in and I said, pick out an album. When we were first setting up, when it was kind of wood and screws and nails and things that needed putting together, and we just had a pile of things on the floor and a few shelves. And I remember saying to my daughter, pick out a record. There was just a pile on the floor, so she could have picked anything out. She didn't know, she was young enough that she wouldn't have known one album from the next, and she picked out the Genesis album Duke, which has got fantastic artwork on it. I picked it up and I said, right, that'll stay with me forever. We'll put that on the wall as a kind of like memento as well. The first sale, I remember opening that later that week. You always have that kind of anxious feeling. Would anyone know we're here? Would anyone, once they knew we were here, would they come in? How would it feel when somebody came in? What would you say? But I've still got customers like Chris, like Neil, like Colin, both Collins, dad and son, that come in that were with me right from day one. And again, customers like that have stayed with me. They've helped spread the word and put it out there that the Roxy's here, and it's got a nice vibe if you ever come to visit it. And to those guys, I'll be forever grateful, because my lack of social media training and knowing what to do is just like, anyone who knows me knows that it's just a nightmare for me. So without those guys going and telling somebody else that we exist, I don't think I'd be I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where we'd be. But it means a lot that they did that, and it means a lot that they still come in and say hi. Yeah, I couldn't do without those guys. They're amazing. So, but I'd been somewhere previously, a little antique place, antique knickknacks, collectibles. I'd sold posters, and again, I just wanted to do something around the artwork. But I came out of there and I was wanting storage, and I fortunately knew somebody that had this place where I am downstairs now. They had empty rooms upstairs, and I just wanted to put all my kind of posters and stock. It was dry, it was not at home. Anything you dump at home just becomes like, you're hoarding. So I managed to bag a room upstairs, get some posters on the wall, because I was literally just going to keep them here, store them here. And then it slowly started to unravel in my head. If I put some posters on the wall, would people come and see it? Again, the posters are very, very niche. We were doing movie posters at the time. When I started up, we were doing concert, we were doing music posters, but the music side of it was really where my passion always was, always will be. So we slowly moved the movie posters out. The music posters took over, and again I thought, how do we get a different audience in here? We'll put some records in. And I started with what must have been a couple of boxes, and I asked someone to build me a shelf, put a few records that I had in the house that I probably regretted bringing, but you've got to start somewhere. And we filled a couple of shelves, and from there on in, we started getting a different audience. We started getting vinyl buyers coming in, as well as the poster people guys. And once I saw people coming in to buy vinyl, that just kept growing, because again, you work to your kind of audience, don't you, that's coming through the door. It was just brilliant. It was, and again, it was just, a lot of it was just maybe he's winging it as you go along. What do I know about anything in life, you know? Certainly setting up a business, I don't know. You just wing it, you follow your instinct, you hope that other people like that as well. Unfortunately, I think we've done okay, so. The Roxy, the name, synonymous with music, synonymous with kind of concert venues in America, in London, during the punk scene, during the late 70s. The Roxy was a club that was a massive influence on the culture at the time. It was short-lived, the London Roxy, but again, it had energy. It had amazing bands for a very short period of time play there. The other thing I always I'm a massive fan of the Police. I could have called it Roxanne Records quite happily, but I always felt that the Roxy was, I like short names, and I like things that people are going to remember. It just kind of flows, and it's not Roxy Records. I was really conscious of having posters in the title, the Roxy Music and Poster Store, because again, I want the posters and the memorabilia to be as important as what the records are to people. A multi-purpose destination when you come. I want people to see different things, and I want them to see it as a mini gallery, but a gallery that you can buy from, you know what I mean, and see a piece of artwork and go, yeah, I'd love to take that home and have that on my wall. So we're in Billingham, 43 Station Road. I always say we're opposite the Peppermill Bistro, but again, you probably only know that if you're from Billingham. We're down from the very old St Cuthbert's Church on the old part of Billingham, which is the green. Come check us out. We're open every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Nice roll into the weekend. It has become a bit of a destination shop. It's lovely that people do come from a long way in some respects to see us. So come and see us, absolutely.
That's a wrap. Nothing else you want to say? Is that all good?
Oh man, Isaac. You know when you feel as though you're just going on and on and on, and you think, is this okay? You know what I mean? So
I think that was grand. I think we're good.
That was about 20 minutes, wasn't it, worth of stuff you've got to get into.
30.
Sorry, buddy.